Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the North American Ag Roundtable. I am Chrissy Wozniak from the Uncommon Ground, and this topic is the future of agriculture and the people who keep it growing: employment, education, and succession. And this topic is really exciting for me. I was one of those kids that wanted to be a farmer when I grew up, and it was pretty impossible to do that. And now my daughter is in the same position. So I really I love the entrepreneurship spirit. I've been happy working in agribusiness my entire adult life, and I'm really excited for this conversation. Just a note to everybody in the audience: please visit our NorthAmericanAg.com and visit our great exhibitors. This is a challenging time without farm shows right now or conferences. And every little bit helps of exposure. So please take a look through our exhibitors, and if you need to do some shopping, then that's where to go. So I want to introduce Tracy Burnett. She's the CEO of Farm Marketer in Steinbach, Manitoba. She also runs the Impact Farming podcast, which is an excellent podcast. Really great for when you're out in the morning walking the dog, and just need something to listen to stay in touch with the industry. So Tracy, I will pass it over to you.
Excellent. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I am so excited about this morning. I get to do what I love doing best. I get to ask questions of very smart minds. So I hope everybody's ready to get going. Before we start with the first question, why don't we go around and get everybody to do a quick introduction to who they are and what they do. Do you want to start, Michael?
I'm Michael Lagermeier, professor of agriculture economics at Purdue University. I've been a professor for 30 years now, and my family farms in East Central Nebraska.
Elaine?
Hi, I'm Elaine Fraze. I'm a farm family coach who farms in southwestern Manitoba, and we have a 5,000-acre seed farm. And I work with farm families who want to communicate better and have workable relationships for having a very successful farm transition.
Excellent, thank you. Catherine, how about you up there?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Doan, and I've worked in talent solutions, that area, for about 17 years. I'm the director of agcareers.com and careersandfood.com. So leading a team who are passionate about providing global talent solutions in agriculture and food. I'm a mother of 4 girls and a chairperson of the board of directors for Agscape, which is Ontario's leader in agriculture and food education. And my husband and I are also turkey and crop farmers here in Norwich, Ontario. So happy to be here.
Excellent. Thanks, Catherine. Mark, how about you?
Mark Rourke here in South Central North Dakota. I'm a 3rd generation farmer, and we raise spring wheat, corn, soybeans, and sunflowers. Grew up on a farm and got a degree in agriculture. So just here to share.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. And Tom.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Field. I'm the director of the Angler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. We exist to embolden people to courageously pursue their purpose through the art and practice of entrepreneurship. Also a partner in a family cow-calf operation in Western Colorado. I'm just excited to be with everybody and to have a chance to be a North American.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, guys. And thank you guys again for joining us out in the audience. I know there was a lot of excited people about this panel, and I had people messaging me right up until the time we got started. So I hope you guys enjoy as well. As you can tell, we have an excellent room of minds here. We have thought leaders in employment, in education, and succession planning. And those are topics that are near and dear to my heart. And I know everybody on the panel here. So I would like to roll into my first question here. And we're going to take about 5 minutes for each panelist to answer this question that has been handpicked for them. And then after that, if we have time, we may roll into a second question or open it up to the audience for questions depending. So Michael, I would like to start with you. You are a professor, and I know you have a strong focus on agriculture finance and transition planning. And we were chatting a little bit to prepare for this, and you made a comment that really stuck with me about farm kids that are looking to go back to the farm. Of course, when we're young, we're ambitious, we're excited to get back there and take the farm on, make our parents proud, and be the next generation. But I know sometimes we forget about the practicality. Can the farm afford the next generation? What's that plan? And I love how you asked about the feasibility of going back to the farm. Can you touch on that?
Yes, when I'm discussing, I'm discussing with a student here at Purdue or other people around the state in the region, and they're talking about going back to the farm. I ask them to examine three critical factors. The first factor, of course, is the financial aspect. Is the farm large enough and profitable enough for the family member to come back? And I can address that more detail in the question and answer. The second relates to strategic fit. This is sometimes forgotten. The way I phrase that is, what skills is the family member bringing to the operation? Do they have some skills that family farm really needs? Usually that's related to technology, marketing, those aspects of the business, but that's also extremely important when thinking about feasibility. Third, and this is probably after you've addressed the first two questions, how is farm income going to be divided? This is starting to talk about your ability, the farm's ability to afford for this person to come back. And so is there going to be enough compensation there for the family member when they come back to the farm?
Okay, perfect. So the three keys there, those are really strong ones. And all of you guys work with farm kids that are just so ambitious, right? They want to get back to the farm. But sometimes, like you said, we forget about that practicality and what are we going to bring to the farm to offset the skills that are already there. So I love that. Why don't we roll to Tom next? Because your question that I have for you, Tom, you run the agricultural Entrepreneurship, it's a mouthful, program. And I thought that was such a neat program. And you guys really bring the entrepreneurship to the agriculture world. And your question here that I have for you, I think builds on what Michael said. You work with students, you're coaching, mentoring, and you ask the students or pose the idea of reimagining what going back to the farm looks like. You mentioned that, and that really piqued my interest. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. And it's, man, what Michael said, make sure you write that down because those are if you just do those things, life gets better and easier. And if you're honest about the answers, you get to those things, because sometimes we don't like the answer, right? But one thing I would caution people about it, and again, this is just kind of my goofy way of seeing the world. I think it's dangerous to think about going back to the ranch or back to the farm. Because if you think about that, the phraseology of it, and you think, I'm going back, to me, that signals I'm looking backwards at, and it's not that the things that were done previously to my generation weren't good, but if I'm not thinking about how to take the farm forward, I'm making a massive mistake, right? So when I hear people say, I'm going to go back to the ranch, right? And I've come from a ranching culture, and I catch myself saying, I'm going to go back to the ranch. Well, what does that really mean? Or am I going to take the ranch forward? So in that process, I think families and young people need to ask themselves two fundamental questions at these sort of translational times when generations are starting to get re-engaged. And the first one is to ask, and I think strategy comes from this question, is what would it take to be best in the world at what we currently do? Okay, and that's worth thinking about. Not that and best in world, you can define that world as your province or your state, your county, your township, whatever, but get it framed. And then the second question I love, actually better, is what if we were starting from scratch?
Good question.
What would we do with this resource? What would we do if we started from scratch? And what that does is that opens the door for the full talent spectrum. So I've got a couple of biases in this space. Number one, I think the biggest mistake we've made in agriculture historically is that we have put women on the sidelines. Dumb move. That's putting half your team on the sidelines saying don't get on the field. That's crazy, right? You can't win with half your team on the sideline. So we got to get everybody on the field. That's starters. The second thing is we and I don't like the term trailing spouse, but it seems to be the term we use. So we forget about, when that next generation is coming, oftentimes they're bringing a spouse, male or female, who doesn't come from agriculture and might actually not want to make their life the farm. What a surprise. How could that possibly be? And if we actually, though, engage them and say, okay, is this an opportunity for us? Like, as I was listening to the introductions, I mean, Catherine, do you sleep? Because you're a busy lady, right? But you're
Since March,
figured out, right, how to play in this multiple role space. And that's what young entrepreneurs have to figure out. And then the last thing I would say is any young person coming back, before you come back, go forward, whatever phrase we use, do the Australian thing, take a 1-year walkabout.
Love it.
Do the Australian thing, do a 1-year walkabout and go see the rest of the world and learn from other people who will love you in a different way than your parents do.
Ooh, I love that. I think taking time from the farm is underrated. Going out into the workforce, you learn so much, you meet so many people. And not only that, I can imagine you have a new appreciation for the farm when you get back there. I've heard it a lot, right?
Yep. And I think if you're an existing farmer today and you've been at it for 20, 25 years and you've got a generation back, do them and yourself a favor, take a month off and don't call home. The place will still be standing when you get back.
Ooh, tricky. You know what, Tom, thank you for sharing that. I really liked your suggestion and play on words, going back to the farm. I've never ever thought of it that way. That's just what we say. We're going back to the farm. Sounds a little warm and, comfortable, but you're right. We're going forward to the farm. Where are we going to take it? I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So Mark, you are the next logical one coming up to bat here. You are a farm kid. You went to university and you found that maybe it didn't necessarily make sense, just like we were talking about, to go back to the farm. Can you share your journey and what you learned, some of those big lessons?
Sure. Yeah, a little bit like what Michael said, and a lot of what I find of value in coming back to the farm is I went to university and got a degree, and I find that especially a lot of kids is bringing back a value, find your value, whether it's mine is the agronomy side, my brother is more on the equipment side. It can be marketing, it can be find your value. And you have to work your way slowly into a farm, because a farm doesn't, especially a bigger family farm, doesn't just have enough revenue to just drop yourself right into farming. You need to find the acres over time. You need to slowly do that. And I've found, I also am a partner in a business, and I've found that having multiple revenues, and that's help me be part of the farm, but not be a burden to the beginning of a bigger farm. So it's that's definitely, there's a lot of opportunity in agriculture with, you name it, working in agriculture, working off the farm and farming. And I just, that's a big thing in transitioning to just being on the farm.
Excellent. I want to follow up on that real quick, Mark. Did you find that taking that time away from the farm was valuable? Did you get something out of that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just college was definitely, you know, an expanding your mind time, as well as learning about being on the other side, being in retail, learning how to be a customer. It helps perspective when it comes to that. So
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. That's great to hear individuals' experiences. I know so many farm kids, sometimes they want to leave, sometimes they don't. They go, geez, why do I have to go to school? It's a waste of time. I know the farm. I just want to be on the farm. And what Michael, Tom, and you said, Mark, about going and learning and bringing new skills and seeing where you fit, that is so valuable. I've heard that over and over. And I know you guys all work with farmers and you would echo that thought. So thanks for sharing that, guys. I want to now move a little bit out of the education part and go to employment with Catherine. So you are the director of eggcareers.com and careerfood.com. So you work with people that are looking for jobs and companies and farms that are looking to hire and train, which is essentially our next generation of farmers. So I want to pick your brain for the farmers that are in the audience, the egg business that are in the audience. What would be your number one tip, maybe two tips to egg businesses and farms that are looking to hire? You can take that wherever you want to go.
That's a wide span. So yes, I do interact everywhere from the on-farm all the way with our careers and food business to food processing, manufacturing, beverage. So the full value chain. And we know in agriculture and food that we need to attract individuals without an agriculture background, because there is only so many people in the pond to pull from. And it's not to diminish the value of an agriculture background at all, because I don't think any of us need to stand on our chair to realize the great things that come from having an agriculture background, but instead to expand our bubble and perspective of the talent that can be a critical resource for the growth of our industry. And we also know that farmers and agribusiness obviously need to look for ways to add to their team and to continue to grow and feed a growing population. So we know this, we're just not always good with putting things in practical sense. So I guess not only to attract these individuals, that's important, but also how to ensure that they're trained in order to do their jobs effectively is really important. And it's crucial with this when you look at youth that, especially Generation Z, one of the main characteristics of Generation Z is the social awareness and activism. So in order to effectively recruit young people without a farming or agriculture background into the industry, companies and farmers must highlight the ways that they're bringing new ideas and innovation to farming to reduce climate change, have a lesser environmental impact. We are doing all of these things, but we don't always speak to them. So speaking from experience at Ag Careers and Careers in Food in 2020, we hired 7 new interns. 4 of them did not come from an agriculture background. Some of the things that they really connected with, and I think just the person that I am, you try to listen to these individuals because that's what we want to be able to replicate. It was, they connected with the farms that were promoting things like new innovations, such as precision agriculture, the use of modern technologies to obviously analysis of crop production, as well as like prevention of use of water, pesticides, fertilizer. All of those things really caught their attention because they're very tech savvy, they're very environmentally conscious young people. So I would say that by attracting them, helping them understand all of the great things that we do to make the world a better place, the next step would be to consider how can they contribute to that? Because young people generally want to make it right. And I think we have the tools of our industry to be able to connect with them to do that. So that would be kind of the advice I would give. The other part would be for us to have a better way of promoting, and I think this has already come up a little bit, that there is a work-life balance available in the agriculture industry. So often we hear again about how many hours are spent milking cows, how we never get a break from the farm, how obviously you need to have an agriculture background to understand us. But that isn't creating an inclusive environment. This type of communication does not help with the image of our industry. It drowns out the so many positive things that we do in our industry. And just like an effective, simple marketing campaign, we need to keep our language simple when trying to attract these individuals. Just like the fact that obviously inclusiveness I mentioned, and just because you're not from a farming background does not mean that you cannot contribute. So once we get their attention, I think the fact of showing them how to develop them so that they can contribute, we can attract the same minds that are interested in Google and Tesla, and the diversity of the backgrounds and perspectives. And obviously with that, meeting the needs of our society and industry. So we need to create a culture that brings a sense of belonging and psychological safety, which I know seems like a lot, but I know we can do it because we have a lot to offer. So sorry if that was too long, but those are a lot of thoughts crammed in, just because obviously we are passionate and believe that we can make a difference.
That was great. Thank you, Catherine. One of the comments that I loved everything you had to say, but one of the ones I really honed in on, and I noticed as well, maybe in our industry, I was not raised on a farm. A grandparents' farm. We went out to the farm from a young age. I said, I want a career in farming. I want to be a farmer. So seeing as I didn't grow up on a farm, I noticed that sometimes as farmers, we speak over people's heads. And especially this comes into exactly what you said, recruiting people. If we're talking technical terms, some of the ones, I'm a farmer. I don't even get some of the stuff that the other farmers are saying. Whereas maybe it's keeping it simple, just showing the nice parts, the easy parts, the cows on the pasture. I love that you pointed out being inclusive and not speaking over or condescending to our audience. Egg Twitter, for example, right? Where people are generally just interested in what we do. So thank you for that.
Just to bring to that, it's really important to look at recruiting young people as they just read the headline. So until you have more time to help them, and generally everybody that I have worked with throughout this year, that's those 7 interns, they want to know more. They're genuinely interested. But if they shy away because of the poor headlines that we as an industry put out there, then we are not contributing to helping the problem. We are making it the problem.
Amen. Amen. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Catherine. Elaine, I would love to get you, the farm family coach, to touch on succession planning. I know this is near and dear to many people's minds, mine as well. You work with so many farm families, and you have for probably about 40 years helping them on the difficult subjects and to transition the farm. I would like for you to, a 2-part question here. Touch on where we're at in agriculture to give everybody an idea of how important succession planning is. And then part 2, can you dive into the biggest challenge, I would say, that stops families from planning?
Okay, so 2-part question. First one is why it's so critical and crucial. And for those of you who remember what this is, it's a bag tag priority label, which we haven't used for a long time. But to me, the tsunami in agriculture is people are not making a priority around it. And I call it the tsunami of agriculture comes from 2 things: conflict avoidance and procrastination. So that's the crucial and critical part, because we look at the average age of a farmer in Canada at age 56, but why is my oldest client 96? There's a huge backlog of people, oh, we'll do it next year, we'll do it after harvest. And so procrastination is killing agriculture. And in Canada, we have 195,000 farms that need to transition labor management and ownership in the next 10 years, supposedly. And whatever stats you use for the United States or other countries, it's all the same principle. You got to get it done. The other part is the conflict avoidance. And so in my world, I use my Beanie Baby bull as the bull in the middle of the room. And Tom, you'll appreciate this from your ranch. This is a longhorn from Texas, we'll pretend. But it's the things that people know they need to talk about. So when Mark decided to join his family business after college, he had to have some crucial conversations, what Michael talked about income stream. And Tom talked about the mindset shift that needs to happen. So what I want the audience to hear today is these three things. What are you doing in your mind right now to get clarity of expectation? What you expect from yourself and your role as you age, because I'm 63, I'm Gen 1. I have a successor son who's 32, married with a wife and 3 children. So clarity of expectations is the first thing I want everyone in the audience to stick in their brain. The second thing is certainty. Certainty of timelines and agreements. Because as you know, a whole year is going to go by and you go, oh my goodness, I remember 2000. That was Y2K. But now it's 2020 and we're in what I call the great pause. So what can someone said, don't ever waste a crisis. And so in this time of being really stuck in a certain mode of being, what are you doing to get that clarity of expectation and get some targets and timelines, as what Tom said about moving forward? And then the third C I want you to remember is commitment to getting it done, to actually acting, because the Chinese have this great saying called talk does not cook rice. We can talk on this panel, and this really irritates me. Oh, Elaine, I'm calling you today because when I talked to you 2 years ago, I should have worked with you then, because now we're 2 years deeper into this conflict avoidance thing. So mindset is really, really important. And for young farmers listening to this webinar, I want you to think about exactly what Michael talked to, income stream. Where is your income coming from the farm or ranch? And where is your income coming from, like in Mark's case, from another farm business or an off-farm thing? And Tom commented on how busy Catherine is. Well, Elaine's busy too, because I've had off-farm income for decades. And I consider myself the operating line for family living. And what would it look like in your farm business if you didn't have to put money into family living and you could reinvest in innovating on your farm? And that behooves the question around how you're building your team of advisors, because a lot of farms I work with are stuck, and the conflict avoidance is because of this, which is finding fairness in farm transition. And you won't be able to read that well, but the first one is financial transparency. How much can come to us in our family for income, and how much debt servicing capacity do we have? Oh, and by the way, that trailing spouse that Tom talked about, do they like to sleep with a $600,000 operating line, or is that pushback city? So fairness is helping everyone in your family be successful, including the non-business heirs. And that's where the tension is in the family, because we have two systems at play here. And this is life-changing when you get this in your head, is we all want to be part of a family, which is the heart of our business. And that family system has certain goals and roles and things and ways of being. But then we also have our farm or ranch business. And what gets really mucky is when these two systems are intermeshed and they're fighting against each other rather than going with the same vision and passion. And, folks, I wish I didn't have to tell this story, but I'm on week 24 of being not on an airplane as a professional speaker. And that's okay, because every week since March, I've had 2 families reach out to me saying, help, we need to communicate better. So here's your action plan. Have a good talk with yourself. What is the current role that you love, that gives you passion and joy about a good day on the ranch and the farm? So what do you expect from yourself? Secondly, talk to your spouse. What do they expect? And do you both have the same vision and timeline for how life is going to be for the next 5 years, 10 years and beyond? Oh, and by the way, how are you going to pay for that lifestyle? And as farm professionals, we need to build a trusted team of advisors and know that we're on a journey. This is not Roundup. This is not a 10-day solution. Bang, you're done. The other thing I want you to do in this time, after you get off this call today, I want you to phone your lawyer, because you're going to make an appointment to update your will. And those of you who are Mark's age or younger with young children, and Mark, I'm talking to you because I don't know your personal situation, but Mark, if you don't have a will, I'm going to kick your butt, because I meet so many young families who are in all this busyness, but they haven't done the basic things to protect that commitment to action and to commit to protecting the risk of the farm. You can call your lawyer, and now that we're in COVID, you can actually get your wills digitally signed. You don't even have to be physically present anymore in the legal office to do that. So that's an estate plan, which is different from what you asked me the question about, Tracy, about your transition plan, because the transition is the transition of labor, management, and ownership. And what young farmers are dying to know is, when will I know? And William Bridges calls this the pain of not knowing, or the neutral zone. And we all know that driving a truck is, if you're in neutral, you're not going anywhere, and that's a really stuck place to be. So as a farm family coach, I'm imploring you to use this time to get clarity about what you expect and what your parents or the next Gen 2 expects. Find out what are the timelines that you can chunk this down on your journey, because the other thing that's killing agriculture is a sense of anxiety and overwhelm. And if we had that in February, how much more of that do we have that now in August, right? So how do you decrease anxiety and overwhelm? Is you start acting one step at a time. So again, the question is, what are the crucial things to think about in transition planning? It's communication of those expectations, having family meetings, building your team of advisors, and just recognizing in your brain that this is a mindset shift. This is not a one-off activity. I mean, Catherine, bless you, you have 4 beautiful daughters. You're a young mom now. They're going to become teenagers. They're hopefully going to go to college. One of them, I hope, is going to be a turkey farmer. One of them is going to be a food advocate. And then the other 2 are going to come out west and work for me. It's all good. So we can envision what we want to have for our families, but we can't pretend we know what's going on in people's head. Love does not read minds. So my main key message is, start talking, do it in a formalized method in family business meetings, have a facilitator, and build your team of advisors and get it done. And you're not alone. You know how to find me at farmfamilycoach.com. This is a journey I want you to be successful at.
Perfect, Elaine. That was 40 years wrapped up in less than 10 minutes. You go, girl. Excellent. So Chrissy, how are we doing for time? Are we ready for another question, or do we want to roll into audience questions?
We have quite a few questions, but I think you guys have time for, I would say, one more, and then let me know.
Okay, I have one good short question for everybody. And it is, I'm going to get each of you guys to leave our audience with a final thought, challenge, or a takeaway in a sentence or 2. Let's pretend Michael and Tom and Mark and Elaine, you're speaking to a farm kid. A final thought that each of you guys wants to leave. Your final wisdom, no pressure. So start with Michael.
I want to go back to the 3 factors I talked about earlier. Make sure that feasibility, skill assessment, looking at the different skills of the family members, including the person coming back, and income division have been discussed before you're actually back on the farm. It's so much easier to do this in planning stage and figure out whether things are going to work before you actually are back on the farm and you've actually moved in next door to mom and dad. And so please discuss that before you're physically back on the farm.
Excellent. You know, it sounds so straightforward, but oftentimes I think we want money to be like magic, and we think it's just all going to appear and take care of 3 families on one operation that can probably support one. I've seen it happen. So I love that you get to the root of it. Strategy, feasibility. Thank you. Let's go to Tom. Your one takeaway thought, suggestion.
As fast as you can, lose your fear of failure.
Ooh.
Get rid of that as fast as you can. Fail forward, fail fast, fail cheap, and learn like crazy.
I love it. I was hoping you were going to touch on that, Tom. Thank you. Mark.
Just, I would say find your place in the operation somehow, some way. Find your niche. Find how you can truly help, and you got to have tough conversations that just need to be had.
Love it. That's great, Mark. Thank you. Let's pop up to Catherine. You're a little bit different. You farm, but you work in the career space. Let's say somebody is sitting out in the audience and they're looking for employment in agriculture. What would be your words of wisdom to them?
I think highlighting that there are a lot of good individuals that are willing to have patience and time to help that person understand the value that we have to offer in agriculture through the various jobs, whether it be on a farm or in agribusiness. And I think to tell them that, we may not always be able to change the world on an instant, but we do have lots of individuals that are engaging and trying to make sure that they can be themselves and bring their ideas and make a difference in our industry and the various jobs that we have to offer. And obviously I tell them to apply to any of the thousands of jobs on agcareers.com and careersandfood.com, because that's just the way that we can get them connected.
Thanks, Catherine. And Elaine, 40 years, boil it down to some final words of wisdom for that young farmer that's probably at home, frustrated, wants to take over the world.
Where is it written that you can't get what you want? Conflict resolution is a business risk management strategy. So learn to get really good at conflict and share emotion, create solutions, share the other person's perspective, and adapt. And as my gift to all the listeners, Chrissy is going to give out a copy of my book to all the people who've registered so that the message can carry on and I can be in your ear audibly through Audible Book as you're driving down those wonderful fields this fall doing harvest. But love does not read minds, and talking is the work. So let's embrace conflict and let's stop conflict avoidance on our farms.
Thank you, Elaine. That was great. And thank you for that generous offer for the audience. That's great. I have it on Audible and it's a great book. So thank you.
And just to say, anyone can go to northamericanegg.com/exhibitor, go to Elaine's page, and you can download the PDF right now. Mm-hmm. So we'll keep promoting that as well as we go. What a great message, guys. This has been really great. So ready for some questions? All right. So for this one is actually for Mark and Elaine. Any advice for a farm family whose children have totally different idea of the direction they should go in?
Okay, Mark, I'll go quick. Different is not wrong. It's just different. And so in that case, when you have 2 children who are successors and involved in the farm business, you might want to diversify enterprise and give one child, for instance, even Mark, in your case, you and your brother are farming together, but you're doing different enterprises. So just remember that different is not wrong. It's just different. The other thing I would coach to is be careful how you set up structure, because brothers or sisters or siblings can be in holding companies and joint venture relationships together, and that's all good. But when those children that they have get to be 20, cousins don't usually farm well together, and you need to have a way to have a good exit strategy right from the beginning.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. Yes, just be cautious and let them be different as they feel they need to be, and I mean, different, yeah, like you said, different is not a bad thing.
Very good. Okay, so here's another question. How does a high school student begin to prepare for a career in agriculture when they don't come from a farm?
Take that one if you want.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. So there are lots of great resources out there. There's an organization called Agriculture in the Classroom Canada that is actually the national organization that has lots of information about careers available. And then I'll speak specifically to AgScape, which is the Ontario group, but those resources, especially now that we're digital, are available kind of across the nation or whomever is looking for. So I think there's a thing called the business of food modules. And I actually had our interns go through that this summer. They are not from an agriculture background, like I mentioned, and it is several modules that you can learn about the various options and topics in agriculture, whether it be from an agronomy side, whether it be from a protein side of things, whether it be from an environmental aspect. So I'd encourage that high school student to obviously get connected with those organizations to see the resources that are available, but then also to just ask. I think around the table here, this virtual table, there's lots of great value educational institutions, whether it be, Purdue or Kansas State or University of Guelph or Saskatchewan. There's lots of people out there that can help those high school students see a path, whether it be at a skilled trades level or whether it be for a college diploma or a degree or perhaps education past that. So the other thing that we have is 260 agriculture career profiles that are highlighted on agcareers.com. It shows you the types of skills that would be involved with that job. So perhaps that could help their educational path as to what they'd like to choose and what education, if any, is required for the role. So it highlights the agriculture profile in different pathways to help that understand the skills that are required, and then some suggested agriculture institutions that would help them with that, because maybe they're interested in engineering, maybe they're interested in marketing, maybe they're interested in species, certain species when it comes to insects or plants. There's so many options out there. It's just a matter of check out the agriculture profiles, the education profiles, and then ask. I encourage them to ask questions because that's how you get the results that you're looking for.
Awesome. And I know I've heard too about farm families with no successors. And can anyone talk about that, how that works, if there is any structure or any direction for that kind of thing?
I'll just speak quickly to that. Chrissy, Country Guide has written an article called Not Related, and people can reach out to me and I'd be happy to send it to them. But that's the joint venture situation. So there's this family in Saskatchewan that had a 15-year-old who started coming across the road. They live close to town every time to help out milking cows, and they developed a long trust relationship. I know another dairy farmer in Manitoba that's also done that, and then given employee benefits to that non-family person. So again, where is it written that people who are not blood related to people cannot be in business together?
Right.
Just to add to that, I know several farmers that are currently looking for a non-farm heir, and we try to become involved at least somewhat to try to match some students that don't come from a farm that have an interest in agriculture, match them with these individuals that do not have an heir coming back. And so this is going to be becoming increasingly common.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's excellent. That's a great resource.
There's another site called successionmatching.com started by Allison Anderson out of Saskatchewan. And that's for not just agriculture, but all businesses in general.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. All right, ready for another one? This one's kind of along the same lines. Can an adult with ag experience but has never worked in ag change careers and have a fulfilling and have a fulfilling career? Is there opportunity here for older adults?
Yes. That's the simple answer. Obviously, when it comes to transferable skills, that's where you need to look at resources. There's a book out there called Strengths Finders. I always encourage people to do that because it highlights the skills that you are very strong in. I'm an analytical and strategic person. I know this. I therefore know that I could go in and obviously apply to a job, look at the things and the requirements that they need. Is it a matter of the ability to follow instructions, the ability to understand complex information and break it down? Is it a matter of somebody that from more of a being persistent and planting and understanding the breakdown of soil? There's so many opportunities out there for you, no matter what stage of career you are in. That's actually something that we started doing, is the Agriculture and Food Career Guide. And we started it because we felt it was geared for students. But then what we have found is the articles are actually picked up more and more by experienced professionals. So it has definitely expanded from like a 5,000 printed outreach to about 40,000 now, because there are so many people that enjoy reading it on a yearly basis. Everything from when you've been out of it for a while and you haven't interviewed for a job, how do you start? How do you put a resume together? What are the things that you need to include in your pitch when you're going to apply to a job and perhaps you've worked in the same industry or different arena for 17 years? A recent individual with the company P&H, she was telling me she was from the food system. She didn't think that there was a place for her in agriculture, and she's now one of their strategic people in their business because those skills were able to be transferred. It's no different than on a farm. We share individuals from our neighboring dairy farm to our turkey operation because it comes down to, is the person reliable? Can they follow instructions? Are they going to, did I say reliable? Yes, show up, right? It's those basics that can be transferred. And there's lots of people that are further on in their career that want part-time work. And that there's definitely options for that in the agriculture industry.
Very good. All right, and the next question, this is for Tom. What are some examples of ag entrepreneurship ideas at your university?
Some great question. So I'll give you sort of the full spectrum. One of our most successful companies is called Stala Services. And they said, you know what? We see a problem in the world. Most people don't like the little blue porta potty experience. And so they redesigned it, completely changed the everything about it, infrastructure, delivery, service, the whole thing. And now he's in 4 states, growing that company like crazy, and probably will never necessarily spend most of his career in farming. We have another really exciting young company called Tractor Matt, young guy that spent most of his time working at his dad's dealership in heavy equipment, getting to clean out used equipment. He got tired of having to clean floors, so he designed a mat that fits into the floorboards. And Tractor Matt, by the time he left college, he was close to a 7 figures annual gross revenue for the business. We got a young woman named Hannah Esch that's farm to table, beef sales. She started 17 months ago. She is in all 50 states today selling product. It's hard, it's challenging, it's tough. And then my personal favorite one is Flyover Whiskey. You have a field, you want to get a half bushel of corn to him. He will make you a certified to your field, your farm, a little bottle of value-added liquid, and brand new venture, 51 customers in the first 3 days. Coolest one of all, a farm. The dad planted it. He passed away. The family's going to harvest it, and they're going to turn it all into the specialty product in honor of their father. So cool stuff going on, and let young people run. Let them run their race.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. That kind of leads into the next one. what are some ideas for farms to be creative and make different offerings? So I guess really, kind of expanding on that, where how can they become more creative, and I guess along that line. Anyone?
Well, I'll take a quick stab at that. So creativity, one, we often think, oh, geez, I'm not a creative person, yet everybody really has an element of creativity. I think one of the best things you can do is take human-based design and apply it to the farm a little bit, and think about, how you design the enterprise. And one of the things that we do, we invite a lot of people to our ranch at various times from outside our business, and we ask them the question, what did you see today that you would do differently? What did you see today that you didn't understand? And if you were us, what would you do with this place? And it unleashes a host of things. Some of them so crazy, I don't think we're crazy enough to do, but we pick up lots of cool stuff. So invite outsiders into your world, because they bring lots of creativity with them.
Awesome. And Mark, can you add to that at all? I know that you guys had to try to think outside the box a little when you came back, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a business side of it, and just going into business, and don't be afraid to think crazy things. I like your questions, Thomas. It things I've never thought. I mean, ask somebody if you, what would you like to see us do, or what would you do different? I don't often think about that, and that's a great question.
I think agritourism has really embraced that, right? Trying to, get people not accustomed with farming onto farms and giving them a good experience as well.
I've also seen Chrissy, a farmer from Nova Scotia this summer, who made great progress with rabbit bales, like little tiny square bales for rabbits. So getting into specialty markets, and I think Catherine and Tom can both speak to the pet food market and what the opportunities are there for agriculture. They're huge. I would also just encourage people to listen to really interesting podcasts. So get new innovative ideas by the types of podcasts you listen to.
Yeah, that's right.
Traditionally, agriculture is really focused on cost of production and producing commodity crops. And I'm not saying that's not going to be important down the road, but as everyone has said here, there is more value-added opportunities today than there ever has been. And these don't have to be completely wacky, if you will, or completely strange. They could be like producing a non-GMO crop. That adds so much per bushel to your commodity soybeans or commodity corn. So look for those opportunities, because that's really going to be the wave of the future, is not only to control cost, but to look for opportunity to sell your product for more than you can get for a commodity product.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And we have another here. Are there other schools that focus on ag entrepreneurship other than Purdue in Nebraska?
So I think you can find an entrepreneurial experience almost at any place you go. But I'm also gonna be this is going to be heresy. If you have a cool idea and a burning passion, you know that you are psychologically unemployable because you want to be your own boss, and you're 16 years old, start, right? And we're actually building our program to help people, whether they come to university or not. In the long run, it should be a roundabout. If you want to come in, and if you want to leave, come back later. Do not, and universities are getting serious about this and starting to go there, but you can start from anywhere today. Entrepreneurship doesn't care. It does not care how tall, how fast, how short, how heavy, what gender you are, it doesn't care about any of that stuff. It only cares, does your head and your heart connect? And are you willing to start?
Good advice.
One of the things that I wanted to also talk about that's related to that question, but also a previous question, is agriculture and agribusinesses are looking for people with all kinds of skills. That's been brought up. I just want to reiterate that regardless of your background, there's a place for you in production, agriculture, agribusiness. We need good minds in agriculture and agribusiness so that we can feed the world. And so just because you don't have the background does not mean there's not a position for you in this industry. There definitely is.
Yeah, that should give everyone a lot of hope. Yeah. Tracy, any closing thoughts and remarks?
I wanted to touch on that too with the entrepreneurship, and because where I'm in business, I'm in the entrepreneur space and the agriculture, and I'm a farmer. And you look at innovating on the farm to create off-farm income. You have spouses that may want to work off farm but have kids, whatever the situation is. With all the tools and technology, this thing that we're on called the internet and Zoom, it is all there. And there's so many neat ideas out there about people like you, Mark, coming back to the farm and think of value added ideas, selling sunflowers, renting out bales for weddings. I mean, the internet, social media, websites, it's all at our fingertips. So, and I look at it, our grandfathers and grandmothers, their options were pretty limited on the farm. You farmed, you did your thing. But now it drives me bananas when people think farmers and farm wives and gentlemen on the farm need to fit in this box. The world is so big. There's so many opportunities. My favorite saying, you do you. See what you guys like and make a life that works for you, your family, and the farm. That's my thoughts.
That's awesome. Well, thank you all for your time. This has been really great. And I really look forward to this, and hopefully there's so much here. I think, I'll probably rewatch it too.
Chrissy, can I grab the reins there real quick before we leave? I want to thank you and your team for putting this on. You know what? I think so many of us are missing farm shows, whether we're vendors or farmers, and that connection, right? We're people, we love to get out and chat. And you seen a need to help both sides out. So thank you for jumping on that. I know it was a ton of work. You did a fantastic job. So thank you on behalf of everybody.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. This is, this close to being in person, right? Yeah. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much and have an awesome day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.